Okay, we'll start with this. I'm sure most of you have heard already, since the news broke earlier today, that Jarrell Miller failed yet another test.
Yeah, we know.
Another performance-enhancing drug, another banned substance, was found present in his body.
This shit is ridiculous.
A drug that is not immediately detectable via urinalysis, but is detectable through blood testing. It appears that Jarrell Miller had HGH present in his body, a substance that typically only remains in the human body for just about 24 hours. So that's saying that at the time that the blood sample was collected, that would have had to have been within 24 hours of usage. Now, this is the second test that Jarrell Miller has faced as a boxer, and the third overall in his entire history as a participant in combat sports. Once in the sport of kickboxing, and 2 times now as a boxer. Ahead of what was the biggest moment in his career as a professional fighter of any kind, it does appear that Jarrell Miller was doubling down on his own inadequacies, that he was covering all the bases and trying to gain as much of a competitive edge as he possibly could. And this is a testament to how all that bravado, all that talk, all that boisterous bullshit is little more than just that. Bullshit. You can go up there, sitting on your high horse, talking your shit, and accusing the other guy of foul play. But 9 times out of 10, if you are doing so, it's only to mask your own inadequacies. You only cast an air of suspicion over someone else to disguise the suspicions that people should have of you. This is a testament to karma coming right the fuck back around and biting a guy on the ass, because Jarrell Miller has effectively costed himself. He really has. He's costed himself a lot of fucking money. I mean, if this wasn't bad enough, 2 tests failed. Just makes this that much more egregious. All these guys, on the premise of facing Anthony Joshua, they all sound like they want it, you know? They all sound like they want it. You know, Luis Ortiz, he sounds like he wants it. And Jarrell Miller, he certainly wanted to sound like he wants it. And Deontay Wilder, you know, that guy wouldn't shut the fuck up about it. But at the end of the day, you notice that time and time again, when people are confronted with having to face this guy, there's always a fucking problem. There is always a problem. I don't feel sorry for Jarrell Miller. And if you want my take, because, you know, the news already broke, and I'm sure you're aware of it. So if you're here, I'm assuming that it's to hear my take. And if you want my take, I don't feel the least bit fucking sorry for Jarrell Miller. Not even a little bit. And as far as his little explanation that, you know, he didn't knowingly take something. I mean, how many times have you read that fucking book? You know, how long are you going to ride that scooter? You know, what's that supposed to be? Plausible deniability? Oh, it was somebody else, it wasn't me. It's in my body, but I didn't know it was there. Somebody must have slipped me a Mickey. Who the fuck do you expect to believe that shit? I mean, at this point in the juncture. To surmise my feelings on this situation, what most resonates with me is just how much fucking shit this guy was talking ahead of the fight. That's what really resonates with me. How vigorously he was working to cast an air of suspicion over the other guy, and how it's all come full circle on him, and he has been exposed to the boxing public. That as soon as they put a microphone in front of you, you could sit there and talk that shit, and that shit could sound good. It could sound good, but in reality, all that shit you saying is just you trying to mask your inadequacies, mask your inferiority complex, that you stand on the precipice of what could be greatness, but on that precipice, you shrink. You know you're not cut from the same cloth as the other guy.
You know that.
So you've got to turn to these, you know,
special sources,
performance-enhancing drugs. You need your HGH and your GW 15, 16, or 15, whatever the fuck number it is, you know? You gotta turn to that stuff. That at its base, Jarrell Miller, in many ways, got lucky. You know, he wanted that fight for a while. People debated whether or not he was even deserving of a fight like that. I saw a lot of people saying that it should have been Dillian Whyte that got the fight, but we know the circumstances. Dillian Whyte wanted more money, and until he's able to get it, he's willing to walk away. Enter Jarrell Miller. You know, Jarrell Miller, who a lot of people felt didn't deserve that fight, but he got it anyway. He got lucky. He won the lottery. And what's he do? He fucks it up for himself. So there's just not a lot to add to this. You understand? There's not much more that I can tell you that I feel about it that you don't already feel about it. That this guy's an idiot, you shot yourself in the foot, you fucked up, and you ought to be banned from the sport. You're so determined to beat this guy, but you're not determined to beat him on equal footing. You don't have that competitive nature. Competitive nature is wanting to test your own resolve against other elite level fighters that are out there. That's not what you want. You want an unfair advantage. You want a competitive edge. And now, you've been caught red-handed. So I'm not gonna play you the fucking violin. Bottom line.
What we see before us here today is what I like to call the fake it till you make it mentality. Jarrell was faking it until he almost made it. But why is that? I mean, why even fake it at all, right? I'll tell you why. A guy like Jarrell Miller, he sees a guy like Anthony Joshua, who's done so well for himself in such a short amount of time. Really think about this stuff. Let it sink in. That Anthony Joshua, as at the amateur level, he competed at the highest level. Now as a professional, he's competing at the highest level. Unified world champion. Didn't even take long to get there. But Anthony Joshua, unlike some others, he didn't start boxing when he was fucking 5 years old, 5, 6 years old. He didn't spend his adolescent years perfecting his craft. No, he's a late bloomer. He got into the sport late. But look at how much he's managed to accomplish. This is a testament to the cloth that he is cut from. That's what that is. A guy like Jarrell Miller, he sees that, but he knows. You're not cut from the same cloth as that guy. So you, unlike him, have to fake it until you make it. You see how he's revered by his own people, what he's done domestically for the sport of boxing in his country, how he's viewed as a national icon, a national treasure, a point of pride to his people. You see that, and you see that you are none of those things, but you want those things. Problem is, you're not cut from the same cloth as that guy. So what do? You fake it until you make it. You turn to some performance-enhancing drugs. You try to, get yourself in position as best as you can, even though you're not cut from the same cloth as that guy. So you fake it until you make it. And it almost worked. You got lucky. You actually won the lottery. A lot of people wanted that fight, or at least a lot of people say they do, but they didn't get it. And you did.
You fucked it all
That's the
up.
facts. Try to fake it until you make it. And you faked it long enough that you were right there at the door on the precipice of greatness. But it was there. It was there, and oftentimes that's where it happens. It was there that you were exposed and found wanting. You faked it till you almost made it. But on the precipice of greatness, all things come to light and all things are exposed, including those that have been faking it in hopes of making it. The envy that particular fighter gets from his peers. They all wish to achieve and be seen in the light that he is seen. But because they are not cut from the same cloth as him, they cannot achieve those same accolades in that time. Thus, they must fake it until they make it. Rest assured that there are many people like this walking among
us alphas, the intelligent, the wise, powerful, and the strong. Many people walking around that come from that school of thought. They are not like us. We are glorious, majestic, like the stallion and the unicorn.
You know what I mean? To surmise my thoughts, I have no reason to pity Jarrell Miller for a self-inflicted wound, something that he imposed upon himself from faking it until he made it. You almost made it, but almost doesn't count.
What brings you here, Kell?
I'll tell you, a world-class fighter's brought me here, Crawford, and he's fighting a guy called Amir Khan. That's why I'm here. I'm here to, I believe he's gonna beat Amir Khan, and then I'll tell you now I'm coming for Crawford. Just
So what's the situation? You want to box at 147 or at 154?
At this current minute, I'm looking at 147. You know, if the options aren't there to fight the men at 147, I can still make the weight. It can still get down. You know, for some reason, if there's nothing available at the time when I'm ready to go, 154 is the next one up, and it opens the door to the herds and to them twins and to the other fighters out there, Lara's and all these. Mongear, yeah, all these on 154 fighters opens another door for them. You know, so let's see what happens Saturday with Crawford-Khan, and then we'll see where we go. I believe that it's going to be a Crawford win.
I just so happen to agree with Kell Brook's sentiments. I also have Terence Crawford winning this weekend's fight against Amir Khan. I think that, Terence Crawford's going to feel out Amir Khan for a little while, might take 2-3 rounds, but once Terence Crawford finds his rhythm, as he often does, when he gets in a groove, I'd say in either round 5, 6, he lands flush on Khan, Khan hits the deck. That's what I'm expecting to happen. And I don't say that to slight Amir Khan, it's just that we've seen what we've seen. And we have our impressions of what we've seen. And based on what I've seen of Amir Khan, he can box for a while, make things interesting in spots in the early portion of the fight. But once Terence Crawford finds his range, finds his rhythm, and times Amir Khan, it's conceivable to me that Khan is going down. So much like Kell Brook, I do have Terence Crawford winning this weekend's fight. But I'll tell you that there's something very anticlimactic about this weekend's fight between Terence Crawford and Amir Khan. We know what Terence Crawford wants from the welterweight division. We know that he wants to unify that division the same way he unified the junior welterweight division. We know that that's what he aspires to do. But much like he said himself in a recent quote, he can't put a gun to those guys' heads and make them have the fight. Those guys being the PBC guys, your Errol Spence, your Keith Thurman, we know who the guy's talking about. He can't put a gun to those guys' heads and force the fight. Can't do that. So even if he aspires to be the best welterweight that he can be, he's working as best as he can with the card that he is being dealt. And that card sees him fighting Amir Khan this weekend instead of one of those champions, one of those quote-unquote killers that the PBC's fans wanted to see him fight up until he actually became a welterweight. Now it seems like they don't have that same energy. They don't have that same enthusiasm. Whatever. There's something anticlimactic about this fight, though. I mean, if we're just going to be honest, there is something anticlimactic about this weekend's fight. We know that Crawford rather be doing other things. Let's keep it a bean. But we also know that Amir Khan, his role in this fight, is he really aspiring to anything? Or is this just another chapter of Amir Khan seeking refuge any way he can from a Kell Brook fight? Oh, we can all sit here and listen to the argument that, yes, Terence Crawford is a pound-for-pound fighter. He actually has a world title for Amir Khan to win. So in that way, it's a more appealing option. And you know what? Those are valid points in some ways. Like, it's true. Crawford is a world champion. If you fight him, you are fighting one of the best and brightest in the sport of boxing today. But there's something that feels hollow about that. There's something that feels anticlimactic about that. Because before it even became about Terence Crawford, the Kell Brook fight was on the table. That didn't pop up after Crawford became an option. It was always there. It's been there for years. And we don't see Amir Khan treat that fight as any kind of a priority. I think that's what's anticlimactic about this weekend's fight, or at least a part of it. That Amir Khan appears to just be seeking refuge in whatever alternatives there are to a Kell Brook fight. I honestly think that Danny Garcia's fight this weekend with Adrián Granados might actually prove to be more competitive than Crawford's fight, because I've got Crawford dispatching Amir Khan, whereas Danny Garcia, Adrián Granados being the aggressive, tough kid that he is, a kid who fights like he's got nothing to lose, against Danny Garcia, who has been very complacent as of late. You know, he's going to have to be on his P's and Q's with Adrián Granados. Maybe he knocks the kid out, Maybe he does. But Adrián Granados is going to make him work for it. At minimum, Adrián Granados is a very aggressive fighter. I think that Danny Garcia wins that fight. I think he does. But I'm not sure how good he's going to look doing it. We'll see. Back to Crawford and Khan and just this whole situation with Kell Brook, saying that he's eyeing Terence Crawford. He feels Crawford's going to win the fight, and he wants that kind of a situation. Kell Brook is targeting Terence Crawford. There's been a lot of talk about what Kell Brook's going to do next, because he very much seems like a fish out of water in the junior middleweight division. He's on the smaller end of the spectrum. A lot of those kids up there, they're real big kids. And for a guy like Brook, those are some risky fucking fights. So what's he doing? He's looking to come back to 47. Seeing if he can have a fight with a Terence Crawford should he win this weekend. I think he will. I don't think Eddie Hearn would stand in the way of that. I mean, he didn't stand in the way of Amir Khan fighting Terence Crawford, so why would he stand in the way of Kell Brook fighting Terence Crawford? If that is a fight that Kell Brook really wants, I can see that fight being made. At minimum, the purpose that a fight like that could service is a cross-comparison of performances between rivals, between Terence Crawford and Errol Spence. The Errol Spence versus Kell Brook fight, I think a lot of people forgot that was a competitive fight. All people seem to remember is the stoppage, Kell Brook taking a knee. But what they don't seem to remember is that the early portion of that fight was competitive. Kell Brook was looking all right out there. He was looking formidable. And it wasn't until the latter half that Errol Spence started coming on and catching up to Kell Brook. All people seem to remember is the stoppage. And the question becomes, if Crawford were in Errol Spence's shoes, could he match or surpass the performance that Spence put on?
No.
Whether or not you view Kell Brook as a solid opponent in the welterweight division depends on who you ask. If you ask Errol Spence's fans, they completely dismiss the Golovkin fight as if it had no effect. They completely dismissed the punishment that he took in that fight, the fact that he got the side of his face broke, the fact that ahead of the Errol Spence fight, he had to drop all the way back down to welterweight, having just fought and lost as a middleweight. They ignore all of that, and they'll tell you that Kell Brook is as solid as he ever was when he fought Errol Spence.
Okay, if you say so.
So those things in mind, hypothetically speaking, if Terence Crawford were to square off against Kell Brook, Errol Spence's fans wouldn't be able to make any excuses.
Not for Brook.
You can't, you guys least of all. You guys least of all.
Can't discredit Brook.
Can't call Kell Brook washed up because according to you guys, he was in tip-top shape coming right off an ass whooping. Well, if he were to fight Terence Crawford next, for example, he would be coming off consecutive wins, not a loss. And he would be coming from 154, not 160, which is not as big a drop. You see what I'm getting at?
No excuses.
How you view Kell Brook at this point in the juncture depends on who you ask. But if you're asking Errol Spence's fans, then you have to make light of what they've been saying so far, that Kell Brook was as good as he ever was when he fought Errol Spence. Okay, if that's the school of thought that you're from, that coming off an ass whooping, a weight cut, and eye surgery, Kell Brook was as durable as he ever was. If that's how you feel, then you can't make no excuses if he goes in there and fights Crawford and gets his ass kicked. That's if you ask a Spence fan. It's an intriguing time, but it seems that Terence Crawford might just have an extra option, an alternative, someone else to keep busy with should he defeat Amir Khan this weekend. That you can go from fighting Khan to fighting Brook. All things considered, those are two good names to have on a welterweight resume, at least in the realm of keep busy fights, because we know that's what Terence Crawford's doing. He's keeping busy for as long as he can till those PBC kids find their fucking balls.